Hello everyone, the Nerdy Steve here, and today we will be featuring an Explorer Best of 1 deck, Gruul Aggro. A link to the list is in the description below. And I'm just going to talk about the general game plan and some of the specific cards. So, let's go. Gruul Aggro, very easy game plan. You want to play either a Pelt Collector or a Llanowar Elves on turn 1, then on turn 2, add a big hasty creature with Ahn-Crop Crasher or Gruul Spellbreaker, or do Burning-Tree Emissary into a Voltaic Brawler. You just want to add as much power as you can onto the board, and then overwhelm your opponent with either like a third or fourth turn Embercleave or Questing Beast. And that's it's not a very complicated game plan, just like with, mono red. You kind of just want to be as efficiently aggressive as you possibly can. Now, and other than that, I don't think there's really a lot to really discuss about the deck. It is important to note that Ahn-Crop Crasher does a lot of things, and I think this is a card that a lot of people play with very incorrectly. So there's two things. First is the actual playing of Ahn-Crop Crasher. On Arena, it's very hard to exert your creatures properly. Sometimes it also comes back with Glorybringer Dragon. I think that's the card where you just go to attack all and you forget to exert your creatures. And then that just leads to a world of hurt. So it's very important to remember, if you want to exert Ahn-Crop Crasher, you need to do it manually by attacking it instead of just attacking all. But second point, though, is, and this is, again, I always bring this up. A lot of people say aggressive strategies like mono red and Gruul are just very easy to play, but that's wrong. Now, sometimes it might be obvious when to exert Ahn-Crop Crasher and when to not, but also what you're exerting is much more complicated than what you might think at first. Like, one of the important things is, not only are you choosing what creature can't block, so you're thinking of, oh, okay, how much damage am I trying to get into, and how does my trample creatures line up against my opponent's creatures, right? So a lot of times you want to think about removing a very big defensive creature. However, sometimes you want to make a Llanowar Elf not block, or something really unimportant not block, to force your opponent to block with a more important creature, or a creature that you don't want attacking you back. And it's just something a lot of people don't use very correctly with the Crasher. Sometimes it is, in a way, a really weird removal spell. Because if you make your opponent have to block with a creature that you don't want them to attack with, right? Then you just kill it in combat and it's good to go, right? You're good to go. And a lot of people don't really see that avenue on Crop Crasher. And I think that's very important to note, and a really good card in this deck, that if you can think about what you're exerting, you will win a lot more games with the Crasher. And I think that's really the most important card in this deck to really talk about, and where a lot of the improvement with it can be. Because I think there's a lot to do here. And speaking of that, I also think Gruul Spellbreaker is a card that is a lot more complicated than people give it credit for. So a lot of times you can do this on turn 2 and attack with a 3/3, which is great. It puts a lot of pressure on your opponent right away, and they have to somehow come up with a way to stop this trampling big creature. They need to deal with it. But a lot of times it's taken for granted whether the 3/3 haste is going to deal more damage in the long run than the 4/4 trample, right? And it's something that, again, with the Crasher, a lot of times people kind of go on autopilot and it's like, oh, I'm just going to do this on the third turn and attack for 3 because I can get in for 3. Not necessarily thinking about the long-term repercussions of having a 4/4 body versus a 3/3 body. And that can be very, very relevant in a lot of matchups and maybe deal more damage in the long run. But, you know, sometimes people will always do the 4/4 body instead of the 3/3, and sometimes that haste ability, like to deal that 3 damage right away, to put your opponent's life total lower so you have more pressure the next turn, is also very, very important. And those are considerations that, if you think about it more when you're playing this deck, you will learn a lot more about the type of tempo and how everything interacts together, and how you can put more pressure on your opponent's life total versus more pressure on their creatures, and what can benefit you long term. And so I think, like, when you can start to look at combat and the board state, not just on the turn that you're doing things, but how it's going to look in the next turn or in the next 2 turns, and how your opponent's life total and the creatures they have will line up against what you are doing and what you plan on doing. It's going to help you in the long run. And I think these 2 cards are very, very, very hard to play with at a really, really high and effective and correct level. So with that, let's go play some games and watch me not do any of that. Okay. We have a turn 1 play, a turn 2 play. If we draw land, we have a turn 3 play. Obviously. So I think we keep this. Upsetting that that's going to be enter the battlefield tapped on our turn 3 unless we draw another land. But we get to go Pelt Collector into Voltaic Brawler, which I think is good. They get the... no blocks there. Oh, that's actually really wonderful. So Brawler will pump the Pelt Collector. Now we get to decide if we want the Brawler to block the Robber. Or not. We obviously, that does not need to happen. 5. Alright, nothing stolen there. So, this is kind of interesting. We can... I kind of want to... So we can Gruul Spellbreaker, make it 4 and attack here, which is a really good defense. We can also Llanowar Elves and kill Etching. They still get a free attack on Robber there. But I kind of like that. Maybe we should... This is a lot less aggressive. I don't know. But we do get Questing Beast next turn, which I really, really like. Oh, and a Fervent Champion. That's not good. Oh, and a Collected Company, and a Gruul Spellbreaker. No blocks. Alright. So none of this is, again, particularly wonderful. I think we're going to leave that to block and just attack there. Now, activating a Den would be good, I think. But we'll, I guess, Llanowar Elves and nothing. I wonder what they can Coco into. They have a... They don't have a lot of creatures. I mean, they're gonna have a lot here, but... in general... yeah, I don't... Oh, could you mind if they could have Embercleaved? That would have been brutal. Now we go to 4. And then Llanowar Elves. Okay. Want to pump that up. Then, if we attack for 4... So, now we have a lot of blockers. I don't think we have to worry about dying here. Sorry, Zev. We do this. Pump that. So we exert, get rid of a blocker. This is that game. So that deals 4. I think this is lethal. Because Karizev can't block. We have this as a trampler and this as a trampler. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defense. So from our tramplers, they're taking at least 3 damage. Yeah. Right? And we go to 2. Close one, GG. Okay. We get to Pelt Collector. Oh, that was a really good draw. So we get to Pelt Collector into next turn, Burning-Tree into Voltaic Brawler. Which will pump up this Pelt Collector. Doesn't give it enough for trample yet, but soon. Also, next update, our opponent will not be able to block there. Oh, cat oven. Okay. So again, a little unfortunate here. I don't... Yeah, we'll make them have the removal spell, I think. Do you want... Maybe we should have Pelt Collected first? Also, this is Explorer, by the way. I know you know from watching the video. So, Cauldron Familiar isn't going to change. I was talking about the historic change. My apologies for not being clear. Oh, another Cauldron Familiar. Okay. We really need another land. I'll take it. Do we want to Crasher? Mainly because it has haste. I don't think we exert it yet. If our opponent can double block a creature if they really, really want to kill one of ours, there, yeah. Oh, so it's not just double blocking the Pelt Collector, which makes sense. Alright, the system really wants me to update, but that's fine. We can play another game in the meantime, right? We don't have any energy now. Unfortunate. Alright, I think our opponent just kind of gave up there. Alright, GG. This deck... Great, though. This isn't particularly wonderful because we don't have any aggressive drop at all. But, you know, we can... We have a collected company, we have interaction, and we have an Embercleave and Questing Beast. So I'm relatively happy with it. Depending what our opponent does here... God, if we played first, we would be able to stomp a 2-drop and then Bone Crush on 3, which would be wonderful. Yeah, Robber. Unfortunate. I mean, we still get to stomp it, which is fine. We have such a high curve right now, though. And so it's going to be hard to get empty our hand anytime soon. Not that I'm really afraid of Robber of the Rich from our opponent, but I can theoretically be. Bone Daddy? Okay. Borbrin. Uh-oh. If our opponent has Embercleave, that's a lot of damage. Are they going to activate Den? Interesting. Also, us drawing 2 Embercleaves is bad. Very bad for us. Burning-Tree. Interesting. Do we just trade here? I think we can just wait to collected company and see what our opponent does. Another Torb? Ouch. Trying... Is that 10? That's 10, 14 damage. So I think what I need to do here Oh, sorry, everyone. I think what I need to do here is I want to flash in the Embercleave on defense so that it can kill Torbran if it attacks. And then we don't take lethal. And then maybe we can do something. I don't know if that's good enough. Because if our opponent doesn't attack with Torbran, it's not lethal. But then we might just not win during our turn. So, I don't know. Huh, do they have their own Embercleave? I think our opponent might. Would have rather them not drawn anything. Because if our opponent Embercleaves Torbran, oh, they're gonna Bone Crush. Okay. So now we do this, that's 3 creatures. That isn't enough, though, I don't think. That's 10. Oh, I get we go to 1. I guess we have to make them have something. Because if our opponent draws over any direct damage spell, we're dead. This, if they activate Den of the Bugbear, we can block, go to 1, and then kill on the attack back. So I think attacking with the Gruul Spellbreaker is kind of like a necessity for that turn. And it gives us, I think, the best option. Because if they have a way to remove a creature, we're probably dead anyway, right? So a removal spell, Fervent, the 1 damage haster is also lethal here. So maybe, God, I don't know, maybe we don't attack? Because now we go to 1. If our opponent has something, they have something. But, like, what are we gonna do, right? We're at 1. GG. Oh, wow. Alright. We don't have any red mana, so we have to mulligan. We can keep this hand. We'll get rid of, I think, Ooze. Because while it's a good card, it's just not the aggressive thing we want in our hand. Because we want to ideally go turn 2 Brawler, turn 3 Spellbreaker, turn 4 Embercleave. It's not going to work out that way, but that's what we wanted. And now we didn't draw land. So we're not in a good spot. I guess we can wait, because we can stomp the Thieves Guild Enforcer. Opponent didn't have anything. Probably holding up counter magic, like Drown in the Lock. Or not. Could just be waiting, which is totally understandable. We can't attack into a 1/3 Soaring Thought Thief. Our opponent is not playing any lands, which is a little scary. I'll keep that. Sometimes our opponent doesn't have anything. Okay. This kind of is what we want. We have Llanowar Elves and Pelt Collector and Questing Beast. So all stuff we can cast with all the cards in our hand. And Embercleave and Questing Beast is good. I'm a little happy. Our mana is a little constrained because we have to Llanowar Elves here. Because I don't know if we're going to need both double green or double red. Oh, okay. Because we need both, but I don't know if the Llanowar Elves died, we may have needed to do this, our pathway on green. Now our opponent is on some type of ramp shenanigan, so we have to be as quick as we possibly can, or we will lose. Probably. Opponent's probably going to block the Pelt Collector and take 5, goes to 15, which means our Embercleave on our Questing Beast could very well do 10 damage next turn, which isn't a lot, sadly. Our opponent is ramping for what? We don't know. Maybe Ugin, maybe not. The point is, we just attack with everything and hope for the best. Oh no, it was a counter spell. That's not good. So our opponent thankfully only has one more card in hand. Oh, a Migration Path? Okay. I think we just have to try and attack all. We're not worried about... I mean, we are worried about things with Flash. But I think the longer we wait, the worse it potentially comes. So I don't mind making them spend, like, chump with the Frilled Mystic. Our opponent's at 2, which means Den of the Bugbear is going to be really, really good next turn. Alright, our opponent's cycling. Hopefully it doesn't draw anything. Growth Spiral. Even if it is an Ugin, though, we have an active Den of the Bugbear. So... Oh, Hydroid Crisis. I think that's actually good enough, though. Dang. Now, I mean, our opponent has to block the Questing Beast here, which is good, and our opponent's gonna lose a lot of life. Oh, are they still dead? That's 5? That's still 5? Okay. Even if they block the Questing Beast? Alright, I did my math right. Good job. GG. Thank you for watching me play some Gruul in Explorer. This deck is fantastic. I love it. I think you should play it. If I were to play best of one a lot more on the ladder, I think I would love to play with this deck. It is very, very quick. It's very, very good. And I think it has a lot of interesting interactions, and you may have saw some of that. And it's just it's great. I love it. I don't know what else I can say about it. It's just play this deck. It might I want to try this in best of 3, and I wonder how different it's going to be. But it's just it is so quick. It presses your opponents, and it can have really explosive thoughts, explosive starts and thoughts, I guess. And it just there's a lot more to it than one might think. There's a lot of different play patterns and really cool interactions that are really, really enjoyable to me, and I hope you liked it. And I think this deck, if you want to climb the ladder, this has the Nerdy Steve stamp of approval. Very, very, very much. So, anyway, if you liked what you watched, or if you learned something, you can support this channel by pressing that like, comment, or subscribe button, or whatever you want. I also stream at twitch.tv/thenerdysteve if you want to watch me live. And yeah, I just thank you for watching. You're wonderful, and I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are. Bye.